Gonzalo, thank you so much for being on the show with me today. Tell everybody listening who you are and what you do.
Andy, thanks for the invitation. Hello to everyone. My name is Gonzalo. I live in Mexico City. I run three different companies. One is Combat MF, which is we're dedicated to firearms training, most of it. Some other training like house protection and some other stuff. Then we run Grip, which we do executive protection. We train executive protection agents. We do security guards. We do secure transportation, some risk assessments, and the other one we import firearms from all over the world. We sell them to the army. In Mexico, you can only sell to the army, and the army is going to sell to the citizens.
Okay.
And well, that's mainly what I do.
Oh, wow. So you really are the perfect person to have on this show to talk about protecting your family because it sounds like you have this covered from just about every angle.
I agree with you. We do a lot of that, and most of our clients are just houses.
Mhm.
And I mean, we take care of in executive protection. We do work with a lot of companies, but in
Mhm.
security guards, we mostly do residential.
Okay.
So I'm
Yeah, and that's what, my folks here really want to understand. It's about how to, protect their home. Now, you talked about that you are an instructor and you do a lot of training. Why do you think it's important for the average person like me to go out and learn how to protect themselves?
well. If you want to learn, if you have no idea on how to face this, I mean, in the US, there's a lot of gun culture, and there's a lot of this protection agent personality who's going to well all the word protector and what's around it. That's a very American way to say it. But in Mexico, that's not a culture over here. So if you want to learn how to be a protector, you stop watching Hollywood, stop watching movies, and go take a good class. Go learn how to secure a home. I mean, you do have an amazing booklet, or I don't know what the word is. Well, you have a book.
It's a book,
Then
yeah.
you have a book, and then you have this tips
Hmm.
apart from this book, which is amazing. A lot of things around security are just common sense. I mean, you don't leave your doors open. Turn on the lights or turn off the lights or whatever, right?
Hmm.
So there's a lot of tips that you can just read, and then those will help you. After that, I'm sure you need to go to someone to teach you the other stuff
Right.
around that, and then go train. I mean, if you have a home protection plan, you need to have one. You need to design one. It has to be in a context of where you live, and then once you have all that, just go and train, because if you keep forgetting things if you're not training commonly. And I always tell this to my students. Did you study third grade? And of course everyone looks at me like, of course I did study third grade. Okay, so do you know what's 2 quarters plus 8 quarters? And they're like, no. Okay, but when you were in third grade, you saw that and you were good at that, and you could do that math pretty quickly. And if you're a dad and your kid is in that year of school, and you're practicing homework with him, you're going to be able to answer fast. But if you quit doing that for a long time, then you just don't remember how to do it. And so that's what I mean by training. If you're into first aid training and you never use first aid, then you will forget. There was an I want to tell you this story. I was driving through this very famous street in Mexico. It was like 1 a.m. and this car just passed on my side, and then he crashed in the next light. So I stopped my car. This guy was not really breathing. He was breathing, but in a very inconsistent way. So I had to take off his security belt, which was very hard to take off. I don't know
Mm.
why. Since that day, I started carrying a folder knife. So I know there's many ways that I use it every single day, but it doesn't have to be to protect myself from a thief, but for all this everyday stuff. So I had to take his seat belt off of him. The car started to burn, like the front of the car started to burn. We had time enough to take him out of the car. I mean, I'm not saying the car was burning and I ran into the fire. No, it was not like
I
that.
understand.
But there was already fire. So another guy stopped. We could take him off his car. We used his back seat. These small cars, you can take off the seat. We used it as I don't know the name in English, but this bed where you carry
a gurney, right?
A gurney. Okay, so as a gurney. So we put this guy there, and then the car just burned.
Ooh.
And then I had to give him first aid. Unfortunately, he died there in my arms. And but there was a big lesson for me. I started first aid like 2 years before that, and I know my response to that event was very good, but it could have been, of course, better. This guy was not going to survive anyway, even if he crashed into a hospital. Yeah, he was not going to survive. All his organs were they blew. But anyway, my lesson from that was, if you really want to help save a life, you need to train, because things get forgotten. I did martial arts for around 25 years, and now that it's been 10 years that I don't do anything, and when I just go and spar a little bit, I'm like, dude, I used to kick better, I used to hit way better. I mean, I'm 10 years older, of course,
right?
But then again, training is important. That's why our motto is keep training. So so I'm all into training.
Right. And I always encourage the people who listen to my podcast to at least once a year go and get hands-on training. Because as much as my podcast and book will help, and as much as you talk on your podcast and everything, it's talk at the end of the day. And you've got to go hands-on and get your hands dirty. You've got to study that first aid. You've got to hit somebody else, even though it's sparring, and you've got to remember what all that is and connect that back with your brain, because reading and listening is great, but doing is so much better.
I agree with you. Reading and learning, you learn stuff, you know how to do it, but then you got to go hands-on and practice and know how it feels. And even though I always tell people, as you do, go get training once a year. And if even if you took already that training, go and take it again, and go and take it again. And even more, if it's a first aid or something like that, go and take it. I mean, firearms training, go and train and take a class, and then a class from someone else or from the same person, but keep on building on that skill and become more efficient on that same skill.
Yes, I agree. You've talked about your work in executive protection. Tell us, as parents, what are some concepts from executive protection that we can use in our everyday lives as families?
So I divide a lot, many times, and more in the U.S. culture. When we're speaking about a protector, you're always protecting from an attack, or the mindset is, if they come into my house, if they break in my house and whatever. And you see, who's the most guarded person in the world right now? Or maybe one of the 3 most guarded guys in the world, the president Poto. Right. How do you say Potus? Potus.
Poto, yeah.
So that's him, and he just fell off a bicycle. That's unintentional damage.
Yes, it is.
We divide on intentional damages and unintentional damages. So this was an unintentional damage. He just fell off a bike. Right. I heard that one of the Bush presidents, I'm not sure if it was the father or the son, he almost choked with a piece of steak or something.
And that was the senior. That was the dad. Yeah.
Okay, that was the dad. So again, that was one of the most protected guys in the world, and he almost choked. So that's again an unintentional damage. So we in executive protection try to mitigate a lot of risks through prevention. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of worrying about the guy who's coming in the house, there is a way many different things that you can look at. For example, in Mexico, there is a lot of earthquakes, and there are
Mm-hmm.
big earthquakes over here. When you have not lived in Mexico City and you find yourself in the middle of a big earthquake, that's a feeling you never want to have, even if the house doesn't fall at all or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a feeling you never want to have. So, do you have a plan? Do you know? Do you know about the risks in that area? Is there tornadoes? Is there earthquakes? Are house being robbed? How are they being robbed? Are the this, I don't know how you say, the 7-Eleven stores, how do you, convenience stores or stores,
Yes,
or
yeah,
how do you
convenience
call it?
store,
Okay,
right?
so convenience stores, are they getting robbed in the area? Are the when you fill up the gas in a gas station, are you getting robbed over there? In Mexico, it's a bit different, because in Mexico, when you come up to a gas station, there's gonna be one person for each pump, and he's gonna fill the tank for you. So
Got
there's a
it.
lot of people, there's a lot of light. It's the risk in a gas station is a little bit lower than in the US, which it's so lonely, and you're putting gas by yourself. So
Right.
it can be a little bit different over here. But then you have to study what are the risks and what is the most common thing that might happen to you and your family. So that's a lot from executive protection planning. So we can do that about studying all of that stuff, and then apply the most probable risk that might happen. For example, a pool. If there is a pool in your house, then you have to take care of a lot of things
Mm-hmm.
regarding that pool. I know in the US, so many times I speak about the reality in Mexico City. Here we don't have as strict laws as in the US, and there's not as many sues. When you sue someone, when you
Right. Lawsuit.
lawsuits, there's not as many lawsuits as there are over there. So
Mm-hmm.
if someone falls into your pool and he drowns, no one's gonna sue you. It's gonna be very difficult that you receive a sue. But in the US, I hear my friends, they say, I don't want to invite my children's friends into the house,
Yeah.
because if something happens to them, then they're gonna sue me. And I mean, if you're sending your kid to someone else's house, there is a risk of him getting hurt. They
Mm-hmm.
are kids, they're gonna play as kids,
Right. Right.
or they're just gonna be dancing. Maybe you have a girl and she's gonna be just dancing, and she flips her toe, or what's the word for
Yeah.
that?
Uh-huh. And she
And
just
and
falls over on the dance floor. Right.
and that's it. And then you're gonna sue me for that. I don't want your kids then in my house, because I'm gonna get sued for everything.
Yeah.
So so here we need to take care a lot of stuff, and that's what I would take is a lot of planning. Plan
Right.
for what can really happen, have a plan for that can really happen, and then make drills about that plan, run drills regarding your plan.
Right. In the United States, you talked about the protector culture, and you're right. There is the U.S. We sometimes call it a sheepdog mindset, and you have to
Yep.
protect the herd from the wolves. So, um, a lot of people will plan for what they'll do if there's an all-out assault by a six-man team on their home. But if their house catches on fire, they don't know what to do. And so I think people have a greater chance of setting a small to large, house fire than they do for six armed gunmen to attack their home. And that goes right along with what you said in the fact that you've got to prepare for what the reality is. What is it in your area? Is it the earthquakes? Is it the tornadoes? I love it. That's fantastic. You've got to really prepare for reality.
Yep. And as I was saying, there's intentional damages and unintentional damages. It is more probable that you have a problem regarding an unintentional damage than from an intentional damage. So you might crash into another car.
Mm-hmm.
The pool that I was telling you, there's something that I really love. We own a pool in our house, and since my kids were really really small, I taught them how to swim, and I was every single weekend teaching them and teaching them until they were able to swim. But anyway, even if they're able to swim when they're playing among kids, one of them might pull the other one to the
To the
how do you
bottom.
call the to the bottom of the pool, just playing, and the other one might just drown. So when a good thing I always tell parents is, if you are at a pool and you're gonna just leave the place because you're going to the restroom, or you're gonna have some drinks or whatever, you're gonna go for food or whatever, ask someone, hey Andy, please take care of my kid. Are you gonna watch him? Yes, I will watch him. Okay, my kid is under your surveillance. Okay, so now I'm passing you this responsibility. If I just stand up and I'm like, hey guys, please take care of my kid, it's like I'm thinking Andy will take care of the kid, Andy's thinking John will take care of the kid, and so no one really takes that responsibility, and then the kid drowns, and I'm like, dude, I told you to take care of him. Yeah, but you told everyone, and everyone was thinking everyone was doing it, but no one was really doing it. So
Yes.
a big advice is, if that's going to happen, look in the eyes of someone and tell him, you take care of my kid.
I love it. I love it. In my the neighborhood where I live, we have a neighborhood pool. So it's a really big pool. So multiple families go to it. And so I'll take my son and we'll go swimming. I know my son knows how to swim. He's good in the water. It doesn't mean an accident won't happen. But when I look around at the other parents who are there, some of them just drop their kids off and leave. And I'm like, what? Okay. And so I will watch, and this is just me, you know this. I watch every kid in the pool. If I'm in there and I'm playing with my son, I'll take a minute, I'll go count the heads of how many people are there. Is the one kid look like he's struggling more than the others? Because that's a fear that I have as a father is, yeah, I want to go and have fun in the pool with my family, but I don't want there to be something bad that happens to him or somebody else. And it's just trying to look out for somebody else. I think that's part of that whole protecting mindset that you've been talking about.
I completely agree with you. I do the same. I mean, and you leave your kid at the pool, and you're like, oh, he knows how to swim. Yes, and I agree with you, but he or she might hit their heads, or just playing. As I told you, that was my niece. That was my how do you say it? I'm the uncle and he's the what?
There would be nephew.
Yeah. So my nephew was playing with my mom, with my daughter, and he was just pulling her because he didn't know how to swim as good as my daughter. So he was trying to just hold of her, and then he was drowning her, even though she's a good swimmer, but she was drowning actually. So I just came in the pool and I just helped him, and then he let my daughter go, and she just swam.
Wow, man.
So, well, that's one thing, and the other is the fires. We don't really know about the fires. People have the fear of losing their lives burned, but most people actually lose their lives because they breathe the
smoke,
fumes,
yeah,
the smoke, and not about being burned. Of course, it happens, but it's more about what they inhale,
right,
instead of the actual fire. So also in the US, there is a lot of laws regarding how tall a step should be from the other step in a stair, and you need to have fire detectors all around the house and stuff. In Mexico, even if there is a law, no, I do not know of one house besides mine that has fire detectors. And I was just talking about that with Pablo. You met Pablo.
Oh yeah,
as
no,
well.
Pablo, yeah.
And in our podcast, we were saying, even I do risk assessments like every week, and I've never been to a house that has anything regarding fire. Maybe there is a house that has one fire extinguisher, but that's it. So here, it's not a cultural thing. So for us, it's something that I should really take care of and watch. In the US, it's just laws, and most of the people do follow the law and do have those stuff in your houses. But if not, just take care of the batteries. If it's sounding and it's telling you I don't have battery, just take care of that, please. Don't shut it up and take care of that. Small things like that are the ones that gonna save your life instead of having 30,000 guns in your house. And of course, I am a gun guy and I agree with having guns in the houses,
Right.
but I'm saying you should base your security in a more preventive way rather than in a reactive way.
Yes, I agree. You can't shoot a fire, so
Yep.
that would not work. Um, in all of when you talk about doing assessments and doing executive protection, in your experience, is there a story that you can share from that would help us as parents? Something that maybe happened that, of course, you can't share names and dates and details and all that sort of stuff. That's fine. But is there something that happened that you said, I need to remember this and I need to tell other families about it?
Well, one of them is the pool. The thing about the pool that I just told you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that happened in a place that we still run the security for that. It's many buildings. It's
Mm-hmm.
many buildings. It's 400 apartments in there, and
Ooh.
there's a pool for those 400 apartments. And there was a kid that was almost drowned, and well, we have a paramedic in that specific place, and he was saved. And I learned this from that, and what I just spoke about.
Sure, sure.
Something, yes, I do have something else. We do, when we train people with firearms, we always tell them, if they have kids, if their kids are very young, then
Yeah.
keep your firearm in a safe place. A safe
Mm-hmm.
place is a place that your kid will not be able to reach. Don't think because it's high, he won't be able to reach, because he might pull a chair, or he might be climbing looking for Santa Claus
Yeah, yeah,
presents, and
for the
then
presents.
somehow he found a gun and he
Right,
didn't even know it was a
right.
real gun, and he started playing with it. And there was this family that there was an event that the kid shot the gun. Fortunately, he shot it at the TV. Nothing else happened. I
Good.
mean, they had to buy a new TV, but that's not even important, right?
Right,
So I
right.
always tell them that. And if you're gonna own a firearm, like, then train your kid, your daughter, your kid, your wife, your husband, whatever, how to
Mhm.
use the firearm.
Right.
Even if you don't want to make these guys efficient in the use of proficient in the use of a firearm, at
Mhm.
least at least teach them good enough for them not to shoot themselves or shoot
Yeah,
another someone else. I mean,
agreed.
if your kid's gonna use a gun, tell them, don't put your gun inside the trigger, in the trigger guard. Don't point anything you don't want to destroy. Whatever,
Right.
the
Oh yeah,
the
yeah.
the
Hmm.
firearm rules, right? So, but really tell them that. Really go with them. Do some drills. Hand them a firearm, unloaded firearm.
Hmm.
Make sure they handle it with care, with a very conscious mindset. And since they're kids, when I was a kid, I used to clean my dad's firearms, even if he didn't use them for a long time. I was like, Dad, can I use clean that firearm? And he would say, all right, we'll do it on Sunday. If you behave well the whole week, your 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 uh, your
Your
uh,
reward.
uh,
Yeah.
your reward's gonna be just watching the fireworks, or maybe go to the backyard and shoot one shot. There was this big place where you could actually
Hmm.
shoot a firearm. So um, so I would behave the whole week very well in order to have that reward.
Hmm.
So he gave me a lot of I don't know, good manners, or what's the word,
Yeah.
like good
Respect.
conduct, respect, and all of that
Yeah.
stuff. So I always say firearms were a big part of my personality, of how good I behaved with others, with myself, with my sister. So they don't have to be bad as everyone says, right? Of
Right.
course, if you're irresponsible owner,
Hmm.
just don't own a firearm.
Right. Right. I had Byron Rogers, and excuse me, I was on Byron Rogers' show,
Uh-huh.
and he said, is it essential for a family to have a gun in the home? And I said, well, hold on here, man, because I think you and I both know people who would actually be really dangerous if they owned a gun. Like in the United States, we have a right to own it, and I think people should exercise that right. But there are some people that I'm glad have chosen not to buy a gun because they would not be responsible with it. So I completely understand that.
I totally agree with you. And there's a lot of people I know here that they tell me, dude, I don't even want to touch a firearm. Okay, then don't have one.
Then that's
I
fine.
mean,
That's fine. Yeah.
if you feel better defending your home with a knife, with a baseball bat, or with a dog, or
Mhm.
maybe you're gonna have alarms, cameras, good locks, whatever. And if they went through all of that, you're gonna call the police and just pray that nothing happens to you. That's okay. But if owning a firearm is gonna be worse than not owning it, so I always say having a firearm lifts off lifts up the risk level.
Yes.
Why? Because someone might grab it and fire at something they didn't want to fire. So if the firearm was not there, the risk was not there. But
Mhm.
if you teach people how to live with that risk and how to make it an asset, then then own a firearm.
Right, absolutely. So I'm sure you're aware that the Second Amendment that protects firearm ownership in the United States has been under a lot of intense pressure right now. Fill us in. What's gun ownership like in Mexico? What's the feeling there?
Okay, are you ready for depression? Are you ready to be so sad? So
Okay.
over here, so you can only own 10 firearms. All of your firearms need to be registered to the army.
Okay.
The only store that sells firearm in this country, legally, of course, legally, is the army. There's
Mhm.
one store in the whole country that sells firearms. Now there, for since a year and a half or something like that, there is a second store up
Oh
north.
wow.
So there's two stores in the whole country. You want a firearm, you need to ask permission for it. You need to turn in psychological tests. I don't know if that's the right
Yeah,
name
yeah,
in
that makes
English.
sense.
Okay, you need to tell them where you live, where you're gonna have them, why you want to have them, and then you need to show them that you've never been charged with any felony before.
Hmm.
And if you have all of that, then they'll gonna give you the right to buy one or two firearms.
Hmm.
After, you can actually buy between 2 and 4 firearms a year, but once you have 10, you cannot buy any other firearm unless you sell one and then you buy a different one. If you want to sell one of your guns, I can sell it to you, Andy, but
Hmm.
we have to go to the army and tell them that the new owner is you are the new owner, and they are
Hmm.
going to register the owner to the firearm to yourself, and
To
then
me.
they're gonna unregister it to me, right? So then now if I had 10, now I have 9, and then I can buy another one from the army or from someone else, but we also have to go to the army and do all this thing. Okay, so you can
Wow.
only buy 10. The largest caliber you can have for a handgun is a 380. You can have
Okay.
38 if you own a revolver, but there's just a few revolvers that are sold in right now in the country. So mostly you're gonna be having a pistol.
Hmm.
You might have shotgun,
Hmm.
but it cannot be a short barrel
Right.
shotgun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's 16 inches. The
Yeah,
the
it's that
the,
for the
the
United
smallest
States
you
as
can have.
well. Right. Le-
Okay,
legally. Right.
legally, of course.
Yes.
Then you can have like an AR rifle, but in 22 caliber. For
Okay.
some time, they sold this Benelli, which is a 223, but now
Hmm.
they stopped selling it, and they just told us that we cannot import any other firearm that looks tactical. So even if it's a
Oh,
22 and it has a tactical look,
yeah.
whatever you want to understand about
Right.
tactical,
Yes. Yeah.
uh, you cannot own. Well, if you already own it, you can have it, but
You can't buy
we're
another
not.
one.
You can buy another one, and we won't be able to import any more of those. What else? You can only purchase 200 rounds a month legally.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe there's some things that I'm okay with, like, okay, who's owning the firearm? Is he a registered felon or not, okay, then sell to him. I know most of your listeners are gonna say, dude, what is that Mexican speaking about? Our Second Amendment and we can bear arms and whatever. I'm on favor of that, of
Oh,
course.
right,
I love
sure.
firearms. And everyone tells me, if you were to live in a different country, where will you live? In the US, in Texas. That's my answer. Because I just go and shoot a lot of USPSA matches and many other matches over there. I have family over there. My wife was born there. I mean, I'm very into the Texan culture. So I'm,
Yeah.
of course, I love firearms, but maybe
Hmm.
there's people that shouldn't have firearms that do have them.
Yeah,
But
right. And we all
well, that's
want,
how it is in Mexico.
right.
And just carrying a handgun is basically impossible.
Okay, so you can't take it like outside of your home. So
You
it has
can
to stay in the house.
so that's for home protection. And if you want to compete with that gun, you can have a special permit, so you can drive your gun in the trunk to the shooting range. You can use it in the range, then travel with the gun with no bullets in
Yeah,
it,
unloaded. Yeah.
unloaded. Yeah,
Yeah.
unloaded, and the magazine has to be off the gun,
Mm-hmm.
and it has to be in a gun box or in a gun
Right. So it has to be like in a vault. Wow. Okay.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Man, that is depressing. You're right. That is
It is,
depressing.
right. It
Yeah.
is.
Okay. So as a firearm instructor, what what's the most important lesson that you teach to your students other than safety? What's one of the most important lessons that you share with them when you're on the range?
Okay, of course, safety.
Yes, of
Everything
course, safety.
regarding that, of course.
Yeah.
And well, mindset. Mindset is one of them. If you're
Mm-hmm.
going to, if you are going to shoot just to shoot a sport, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's people who say, I love this sport, but if someone came into my house, there's no way I can shoot someone. I'd
Mm-hmm.
rather die than shoot someone. Okay, I don't agree with that, but if that's
Right.
you, then have a very good sport mentality. If you, most of the people that come to our classes, they want to learn for protection.
Right.
So I tell them, are you sure you want to do this? Because then if you are into this, you are responsible for every single bullet that goes out of the barrel.
Mm-hmm.
So be very careful on that. Train your fundamentals, train your basics, and then after that, train them again and keep on training them. Run some drills, learn how to own a firearm. It's not just having one, but learn how to own it. If you're going to carry, which in Mexico is impossible, as I told you,
right.
There's just a few permits, and you have to be friends with the president or with someone on the staff who's gonna bow for you, and so it's not gonna happen.
Gotcha.
So if you're gonna have it in your house, learn where to have it. Have a plan. If there's more people in the house, make them learn how to use the firearm and become proficient in the use. If don't look with whom you're gonna train with. Don't just go with the YouTube Rambos. Go with a good trainer. You know.
Absolutely.
If you're, man. I always tell them, if the guy that you're gonna train with, he is wearing this special forces gear.
Yeah.
Why would he wear that? Why would he be dressed in those clothes when he's teaching you how to use a firearm in your house? Just don't be impressed by the looks. Maybe that guy's an amazing trainer, okay, or an amazing instructor, but do a good research. And if you're gonna learn how to use it in your house, you don't need that guy that's gonna tell you that the aliens are coming and you have to shoot them. Just go for realistic scenarios.
Right. I agree. My last question here before we wrap up, Gonzalo, I'm sure you've been asked this question a million times. What do you think the best firearm for home defense is?
Okay. So that's, I think you need to, first of all, it has to be a legal firearm. In Mexico, we used to have this idea on just shoot the guy and then have a second firearm, shoot from where he is, and then put your firearm in his hand. Yeah, if no one's going to investigate the murder, you can that okay. But there's way great investigators. Don't fall for that one. Have a registered legal firearm in Mexico. I'm speaking in Mexico, of course. In the US, just have a firearm.
Right.
And which firearm would that be? If your home is like an American home where a high caliber might trespass many walls,
yes,
then be careful.
Yes.
Be careful with that. Be careful with what the bullet can do. Personally, I prefer handguns. Personally, I don't like revolvers for home defense because they are more difficult to aim. If they have a hard trigger pull, they're not easy to control, and they only have 6 shots. I rather have a handgun that you have another magazine with a war belt, and I don't feel in Iraq, but a war belt, if you have it all set up, you can just, even if you're naked, you can just put it on, and then you have all your stuff on you. If you're in underwear or if you're fully dressed, it doesn't matter. You can just put it on. You have your lamp, you have your other magazines, you have a secondary telephone, you might have whatever, a first aid kit, of course, whatever you can carry there. If you're gonna come out your house and move inside your house with a rifle or a shotgun, it's way more difficult to navigate your house with that. If you're very proficient in the use of those firearms, I like them. But that's just a few people really trained to that level. Just going to shoot paper on the range is not enough. It's a very good beginning, and you should always do it, even if you're proficient. But then you have to go through 4-on-4 scenarios and way other stuff. So I would say a basic pistol, and if I was in the US, I would go for a 9mm with a hollow point bullet. Almost any bullet is going to be good for it. Maybe Hornady or Federal have some better bullets, but any of those bullets will do a good job, and that's what I would go for. And I am a big fan of striker fire guns, which don't have any outside safety levers. You need to learn less steps, and it's way easier.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what I would do.
I appreciate that, and that all makes sense, and you explained that very well. And I'll add one more question here. Since you are an accomplished shooter, you have done competitions, you work in the sale of firearms to the military there in Mexico. What is your most favorite gun that you've ever shot?
Oof, that's
I should have prepped you for that. I should have prepped you for that. I'm sorry.
No, I love those questions. They're tricky. So there is this pistol that's well, there's a lot of them. If I was going to go for competition, I like the Tanfoglios, the CZ, the CZ. And now there's a Grand Power. In the US, it's not as famous, but there's the Grand Power, the Excalibur match. I'm not sure if you already have the match in the US, but there's the Excalibur and the Excalibur match. Those pistols shoot very good. They have an amazing trigger. You don't need to touch that trigger, and that trigger is almost as good as a CC. Very, very, very polished trigger. Not polished, but when you send it to someone to do the trigger with a trigger job.
Right.
So of course, 2011s, I love those guns, but they are not as reliable as other guns.
Right.
If you don't keep them very clean and all of that stuff. So I would go for maybe for that pistol, for the Grand Power.
Very cool. That one. Very cool, man. I appreciate your time. Tell everybody listening where they can find out more about you.
Okay, so we have, I have it somewhere around here. So Combat MF, our Instagram is Combat MF.
Right.
Our webpage is combatmf.com. But I would go for the Instagram page. There's
Mm-hmm.
also the EP Summit, which is an executive protection summit that we have in Mexico. Byron Rogers was here last year. The guys from Arcadia
Yep.
Cognorati, Greg and
Greg and
Brian
Brian.
were over
Yep.
here. They even had a workshop. They run a 1-day workshop. It was an amazing workshop, quite different from the one we took when I met you.
Right. Right.
These guys are amazing. If you don't
Mm-hmm.
follow them, just go follow them. And our podcast is EP Box Podcast. As of now, the podcast has only been released in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
We're figuring out on how to subtitle in which program to use to subtitle the some English
Some in
people.
English, right?
Yeah, I hope you're one of our guests in
I'd
that
be happy
podcast.
to, sir. Absolutely.
And if you need something in Mexico, you need to run some protection in Mexico, whatever, you can go to grip.mx, grip.mx, or just contact me through my Instagram webpage or LinkedIn, Gonzalo Senosiain, and that's it. Gonzalo Senosian in English.
Very good. Gonzalo, man, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for taking your time to talk to us, for making us laugh, and for giving us such great advice today, buddy. Thank you for being on the show.
Andy, thank you very much. Thank you for everyone that's listening, and I love this minutes with you.